Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Nashville, Tennessee. And over here is the brand spanking new 2016 Chevy Cruze. Now, Chevy flew me down here to drive the new Cruze, but they also provided this. Yes, indeed, it's the new Honda Civic. And way up front here, this is the new Hyundai Elantra. So there are 30 other journalists here who all want to take these cars for a ride, so I don't have a lot of time. But you know what? Since they're here, let's take them for a ride and let's do a little side-by-side comparison. And that is coming up right now on the Fast Lane Car. I'm in the Elantra now, but there are some ground rules that you guys have to be familiar with. There are 30 other journalists here who want to drive these cars, so I'm for a very brief amount of time. Luckily, I've driven all these cars before, so I'm pretty familiar with it. Starting with the price, we've got $20,600, 32 combined, 28 city, 37 on the highway. Hyundai always gives you a lot of value for your money. This Elantra is a nice, tidy little package. There's just a lot of value here. Everything is screwed together well. Everything feels, I wouldn't say expensive, but certainly premium to some extent. The design language is very straightforward. Audi would come to mind because, of course, the design director for both Kia and Hyundai used to be the design director for Audi. So it's very straightforward, very German, and just very tidy little package. Now there is a little downside to the Elantra, and that is there are some relatively inexpensive materials, but Hyundai does a really good job of kind of putting the colors together and you know, making you feel like you're driving a car that is much more expensive than it is. There's also kind of that classic tip-in, right? Since this is a normally aspirated car, there's a lot of power initially and then not so much. Let's give it some beans. Yeah, there's a lot of roar and not so much acceleration. You know, it's got that kind of funky throttle tip-in where all that power comes on right away and then it kind of dies down as you get up into the higher speeds. Under the hood of the Elantra is a 2-liter 4-cylinder that puts out 147 horsepower and 132 pound-foot of torque. It is mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission, and like the other cars I'm driving, it's front-wheel drive. Well, I'm at the stoplight. Let me show you the interior so you have a better sense for it. There we go. It's very nice. Like I said, everything is very linear, everything is very straight. It's all very Audi-like, and in my mind, that's certainly a compliment. This is just a really well executed interior. The seats, the materials, they're a little on the cost-cutting side, but you know, for $20,000, you can't get Rolls-Royce like bespoke interior. But overall, I like this car a lot. I think Hyundai has just upped its game so much over the years since it first came here, making it a contender in a segment that's very crowded. So let's go for the segment leader next, and that is the Honda Civic. Now you may be wondering why there's no Corolla. I'm wondering the same thing, but Chevy supplied these cars, so they're the ones that basically set the ground rules. I'm thinking they pick cars that have been recently updated or redone. The Corolla, while it's been refreshed, isn't an all-new design, unlike the Elantra and, of course, the new Cruze. All right, I'm in the Civic now, and I like this car a lot. I actually recently went to the first drive program with this car, and you know, Honda's been one of these companies where they've kind of been hit or miss. So they've done a really good job, and then they haven't done such a great job. You know, think of like the previous Civic and the previous one before then, the Cross Tour, and then think of cars like the Pilot, which just work. And I think this is one of those cars that just works. Now let's look at the Mineroni. This one is 21,040, actually 21,875. $31 in the city and $41 on the highway. Now I really love the interior style of this car. It's modern, it's chic, it's, dare I say it, cool. But let's see how it drives, and let's see how it compares to the Elantra and the Cruze. The new Civic has gotten very big. In fact, in some ways, it almost competes with the Accord. It's that big. This could almost be a segment busting, or a car that's in the next segment. And I suspect Honda has done that on purpose. They know what they're doing. They think that people will see a lot of value in a car that offers them more space, and I think it's a smart strategy. It just pulls and pulls and pulls, unlike the Elantra, which I drove, which kind of pulls at the beginning and then kind of falls off a cliff. That torque is there the whole time. And unlike the other two cars, it's made it to a CVT. The CVT in this car does its very best to emulate a traditional automatic transmission, but I'm like, if you're going to emulate an automatic transmission, why not just put in an automatic transmission? The reason for that is right here, it's fuel economy. CVTs just get better fuel economy. It rides well, everything is really screwed together tightly. I'm hitting these kind of urban streets that are pop marked and not the best of roads, but you know, this thing just soaks it up. Independent rear suspension, you get a lot for your money in this Civic. So you know, there's a lot of provenance, there's a lot of technical expertise that has gone into the Civic over the years, and it really shows. There are a few small complaints besides the CVT. I hate the fact that they did away with the volume knob. I know you guys are like, he's talking about the volume knob, but you know, there's just some things that were engineered so perfectly, and the volume knob was one of them. You turn it right to turn up the volume, you turn it left to turn on the volume, and of course, you turn it all the way to turn it off. Now you've got this sliding thing here that in a car that's moving is very tricky to use, or you've got your little thumb scroll here, which is equally as tricky to use. So you know, sometimes progress is one step forward and two steps back, and in terms of the knob here for the volume, that's certainly the case, at least in my book. All right, well, let's jump in the Cruze. So I'm in the Cruze right now, and this is the manual version of it, and I'm doing that because I want it to line up with the other two cars. Otherwise, it gets a little too expensive if I go for the other Cruzes that are here, because they're all upper level trim. So this is the LT manual. It comes in at a total price of $22,685. Now the fuel economy is a little bit lower, 33 combined, 29 city, 41 highway, but that does change in the automatic. But let's compare a manual to a couple automatics. I know it's apples to oranges, but you know what? Heck with it. I love driving manuals, and I'm happy that GM put one in here, so let's see how this bad boy does. Oh yeah, it's perky. Oh, immediately. This turbo pairs really nicely with this manual transmission. I bet you I can get the wheels to squeal a little bit. Torque steer. Gotta love it. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Under the hood of this new Cruze is a 1.4 liter turbo that puts out 153 horsepower and 177 pound-feet of torque. Now in this case, it is mated to a 6-speed automatic, but a manual version in the lower models is also available. Once again, powers the front wheels. Now in terms of the interior, I would have said the Civic had the best interior in class, but you know what? This is really nice. Everything I touch is soft. There are no hard plastics. There's no kind of cheap looking parts. Sometimes with GM, there's a sense that the accountants, let's call them cost cutters, have their way, and the car isn't as nice as it should be. But here, wow, everything is really good. It's also longer. I don't think it's quite as big as the Accord in terms of just room on the inside, but you know what? I have plenty of headroom. I have plenty of shoulder room. It's a good seating position. It's a good driving position. And oh yeah, the suspension works really well. These are really bad roads here. They're all torn up, and just like the Civic, it's just soaking it up like it doesn't care. Now I do love this manual 6-speed transmission. It's tight, it's short, it's not rubbery like some cars that I've driven are. This just really pairs nicely with this car. Now, yeah, I know the other two had automatics, but I've driven the automatic in this vehicle as well. If you want to watch that review, just click above. But I just tripped the wheel in second. Yeah, you know, I know automatics are more fuel efficient, but oh gosh, it's just so much more engaging to be able to actually control the car's gears as opposed to just being a passenger. I think it's a difference between being a passenger and a driver when you're driving a stick shift. Overall, I think GM has done a really good job in the new Cruze, and that's probably because this is a world car, right? It's being sold as an Opel in Europe, as a Cruze in China, so they've put a lot of time, money, and resources into making this car really good. And in the past, it's been not quite at the top of the game. It's been kind of in fourth place in the segment, with the Civic and of course Toyota Corolla being 1 and 2. And I think this car will do very well for GM because it's fun to drive. And yes, for my money, I definitely go for the manual. Well, I have to admit, I really like the new Civic. I think the engine is probably the best of the lot, but it does have one huge hamstring issue, and that is the CVT. Just not a huge fan. As much as it does try to emulate a traditional automatic, it doesn't quite succeed. The Hyundai, very nice car. You get a lot for your money, but dynamically, it's just not as good as the Chevy Cruze. So I would say the nicest interior is the Chevy Cruze, but the segment is so very competitive that there isn't a lot of space in between all three of these cars. As always, this is Roman reporting for the Fast Lane Car. Please check out tflcar.com for more news, views, and of course, real world mashup reviews. There's a trolley coming. I gotta get out of the street. See you guys next time. Ciao. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the brand spanking new second generation Chevy Cruze. Here it is. It's all new. New chassis, new engine, new interior. Everything has been redone because Chevy is determined to compete against the class-leading Honda Civic and Toyota Corolla. So have they done enough? Well, coming up next, we're going to find out by taking it for a ride.